everyone. Going to be getting started in just a moment here. Going to go over a few things here at the beginning, just for any folks who might be new, who've never seen anything like this before, or this is your first time. So my name is Tim. I go by foamyguy most places online. You can see it in the stream down there, on Discord and GitHub, and all the usual places. This stream, we're going to be talking about CircuitPython. CircuitPython, if you never heard of it before, it's a version of Python that can run on tiny computers called microcontrollers. And so what I have on the screen here is one of these devices. This is a Adafruit PyPortal device. So this is the one we're going to be playing with a little bit today. And CircuitPython runs on these devices, and it gives you a way to program them relatively easily and quickly without a whole lot of pre-existing knowledge or expensive hardware or software or anything like that. Makes it super easy to do for pretty much anyone to program these devices. This device here, it's a Adafruit PyGamer, and Adafruit is a hardware and software company based out of New York in the United States, and so they are the primary financial backer of CircuitPython. They pay several people to work on CircuitPython full time. So if you like CircuitPython, if you like the kind of stuff that I'm doing in this video, please support them by buying hardware from them. You can do that at adafruit.com and several other places as well, like DigiKey, for instance. So this video here is not a paid endeavor. They're not paying me for this video, but I do like to always promote them at the beginning, because I really appreciate the work that they're doing on CircuitPython. I really appreciate especially that they are obviously paying folks to work on this platform, because I think it's a really neat platform and it's a really great way to get folks interested in programming. So I'm a big supporter of them. They, again, just to recap, they're not paying me for this video, but they do pay me to write guides and other software sometimes. So have worked for them before, do work for them. So in this video, let me check the chat. Maybe I froze the chat accidentally. Yeah. Okay. Gonna have to probably just switch back to the other chat thing. It seems like I could get it going for a while there last week, but I don't know. I'll give it one more try. I still think maybe that I minimized it accidentally. If I can get out of the habit of minimizing it, it might be okay, but maybe I'm not actually. Maybe that's not actually true. Maybe it's freezing even when I don't minimize it. Google might be doing something weird with the URL. In the description, clicked on System76. And I'm very quiet. Let me turn the volume up. Thanks, guys. Sorry, it took me a minute to catch up with the chat here. Let's do that one, I think. Oh, also, this is the wrong... thing here. Okay, hopefully I'm not like super duper loud now. Let me know how we're looking on the volume there. That was definitely the wrong microphone input. System76 link, let me check on that as well. Also, how's it going, guys? Hugo, Jose, good morning. How you guys doing? How you folks doing? Sorry. Discord's locked up. Yep. Getting better. Let me know if it could still go up. I can crank it a little bit higher, maybe a smidge higher. Okay, let's go. I think easiest way to do it's probably here. Let me know how that is. YouTube, yeah, I think I just put in those links. I copy them from from video to video. Maybe it copied weird, or maybe I had it wrong even before. I'm not sure. This is a different account. Let me see here. Okay, yeah, actually, well, I need to just use YouTube in this other browser here. Ooh, got the cat going crazy in the background, as is becoming customary. Yeah, let me check this link. Ooh, let me not hear myself, though. Okay. System76. Yeah, it sure is. I wonder if Are the rest of these working? Oh. It's doing that on all of them. So I guess my copy paste from last week's description broke them. So I need to probably just save that little blurb in a file. This one worked. They probably just have more lenient handling of all those weird URLs though on that server. That's my guess. So it looks like I need to save those in a file and copy them from there. Thank you for the heads up on that. I will try to do that better next week. I'm going to leave them for now because that is probably going to be kind of boring to watch me fix those. Here we go. Fighting Pylon. Yeah, I noticed. I think we're going to be doing the a big sweep. I think we're in the works. I don't know when exactly that are going to be pulling the trigger on that, but I think that's what it's going to be coming up pretty soon, and I think that's going to resolve our Pylon issues. I know you did a bunch of work on getting that together for us, Hugo. Thank you for that, by the way. Vertical progress bar. Yeah, vertical text. I was just looking at that this morning. I saw, yeah, we're going to talk about, I guess I'll dive into that here in just a minute. Dexter, how's it going, Dexter? Good morning. Thanks for joining us. Let's see, where did I finish up? Did I make it all the way through the intro? Sorry, I get distracted sometimes. I talked about Adafruit. Yeah, so let me just kind of set the stage for what we're going to look at today. One thing is I'm going to talk about actually one of the things that Jose in the chat is working on, and they're discussing in the chat a little bit there, the vertical progress bar and the vertical text. So I'm going to go check out the vertical text PR. I tried that out a little bit this morning. It's looking pretty good to me. I did see that note that Jose that you posted about the mag tag. We probably want to see if we can isolate that into a smaller repeat code, you know, like an example code that reproduces that issue. And then if so, we can make an issue, I think, in the repo, in the core repo, because that definitely should not crash. I don't think all the way back to safe mode. That's broken somehow, somewhere in the core, I believe. So we'll look at that a little bit. But to set the stage for the other stuff, probably what I will spend the most time working on today is going to be games. So tile map games in particular. And the thing I want to do is work with this software called Tiled, T-I-L-E-D. I don't know why my icon for it doesn't work here. They have an icon, but it's this software, and it's for making tile map game maps. So you can create your maps inside of this software, can set your sprite sheet, do all kinds of things, and then you can export the map as, well, there's a couple of different formats, but in particular JSON is what I'm interested in. So we're going to export it as JSON, and then we're going to try to import it into CircuitPython to render it inside there. So before we go all the way into tiled, though, I wanted to back up just a little bit, especially if you have never done anything with tile map games before, because that's kind of you know, to pardon the pun, or to steal Scott's title there, it's going to be a bit of a deep dive, right? If you've never done anything with tile map games before, that's going to be a bit much to try to tackle all at once. So before I dive right into that, I wanted to take a step backwards and look at this Learn guide that I made a while back. So this is a CircuitPython creating your first tile map game Learn guide, and the thing about this is that it doesn't use that software Tiled, and what it does instead is it will use Excel spreadsheets. So let me go. I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit. I'll come back. We'll talk about what this Learn guide is at a higher level as well. But just to set the stage here, the maps for this game that are in the Learn guide, they use an Excel spreadsheet right here for you to lay out, you know, the map, to lay out what tiles are which ones are walls, which ones are floors, which ones are, you know, characters. All of those things are put into this comma separated file. So we're going to be, you know, instead putting all of that stuff into Tiled. It's going to be getting exported as JSON, and then we're going to load that into the program from there. The nice thing about using Excel, though, is it's nice and easy. Pretty much everyone has access to a spreadsheet program. If not, you know, Excel, then there's OpenOffice or LibreOffice, and also there's Google Spreadsheets. So, pretty much everyone has got access to a spreadsheet software. It's pretty easy to use, and it makes it very clear what's happening, right? It's very easy to equate this to a two-dimensional grid, which is what your map is. Whereas with tiled, like when you see it here, it's nice and easy to equate it, but when you look in the JSON, maybe it's not quite as clear. So the way we made this one back then, I hadn't messed with tiled yet. I don't know if I had discovered that software yet. So again, this one uses the comma separated files, but we're going to be trying to do a similar thing with tiled. And so to take a step backwards and talk about the CircuitPython side of things, how does the tile map game work? So the main things that you need to understand for how the tile map gets rendered, here, I'll drop this link in the Discord here. Oh, what is this? This is a clock Metro ESP32S2. That's looking nice. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that board. What kind is that? Is it an all-in-one board right there, or is that a shield on top of something? I'm not familiar with that one. That's looking pretty nice, though. I like the way you got it laid out there. Let me pull up the. Can I open this over here? I know you guys can see the chat anyway, but I'm seeing if this might give me a bigger image of it. Nice, yeah. 093. Cool. So that's showing you the time there. That is I guess that's just a TFT and SD card breakout. It's got a D-pad on it there. Awesome. Okay. I'm bad about mentioning this. I try to mention this at the top of the streams, and I am sometimes bad about it. Here, let me scroll here since this is watching my screen. The chats. So you can join me in the Adafruit Discord in the live broadcast room. That's what the main chat is here. That's the one that's showing on the screen. The other place that you can try to chat, if you're interested, if you want to say anything or ask any questions, you can go in the Twitch chat room. I'll try to watch that one as well. I will say I'm usually slower at that one, so if you do leave me a message in there, just be aware it might take me a minute to get to it. The Discord is the quickest way if you want to get my attention in the Discord, that live broadcast room there. And for the YouTube chat, I don't really watch the YouTube chat, unfortunately. So if you do have a question, I would not recommend putting it in there. It seems like more often than not, the things that are going in the YouTube chat for the last few times I've streamed have been spam, link spam, and I need to see if I can disable the comments on there. But anyway, Discord chat is the way to go. Okay, diving back into the games though, tile map games. So I know we talk about display I/O a lot. So the main display I/O concept that you need to understand to make these tile map game work is, I think it's not this page. I think it's gonna be the next page. Let me just double check here. So this page is good if you're trying to get started. This has got all the code, and it's got the libraries and the instructions for setting up your device for the first time if you've never done that. This game does run on a couple of different devices. So you can see here it says Edge Badge or Pi Badge, and then you can see back in the camera here, this is a Pi Gamer, which is a different device than those two, but they're all fairly similar. The one that's probably the odd device out, if you will, at least from this group, is the Pew Pew M4. This one is a third-party device. It's made by Deshipu. It's really cool device there, Pew Pew M4. And this game does run on that device as well. How's it going, Johnny? Yeah, that shield is looking pretty cool. Thanks for the link on that shield. I might have to give me one of those. What does that fit on top of here? Oops. Oh, this wants me to sign in for some reason. I think maybe I clicked the wrong link here. Oh, it redirected me back. What is, it says 802. Let me just search. Let me just pull up product 802 maybe. Sorry, I got this going on the other screen here that you guys can't see. I'm gonna take a look at this thing. I haven't seen this Seen this device before, I don't think. I like the way the screen, I normally, okay, so it's a Uno, or I guess, a Metro is what the Adafruit ones of that form factor, they call them usually. Interesting. Yeah, I like the way that it has the joystick and the buttons built in, and the screen is all contained within it. It's a nice little device. An SD card as well. Nice. Put this back over here. Okay. Okay, so those are the devices. Pygame. The Pygame is very similar to the PyBadge and the Edge badge. Pew Pew M4, to give that one a shout out. This is a really cool device. Again, this one's made by a community member, Deshipu. So it's not an Adafruit device. You can buy it. I think maybe I bought them on Tindy. I don't know if they're still available that way or not, but this is the device here. It's really cool. It's like a little mini Game Boy, basically. So that's cool, and maybe we'll bust that one out and play with it one of these days on the stream here. Anyway, though, like I was saying, this is a setup page. The main thing you need to understand for the display I/O part of it is right here on this rendering and movement page. And at the very top of it, they have a link to a different Learn guide right here, multiple tile grids. And this is really the core concepts that we're going to use to make our tile map game. So I'm not going to dive super deep into all of these on the stream. I do want to dive in and start using tiled. So you'll get a chance to see how all that's working. But to break it down just at a real high level, the level is broken up into a two-dimensional grid. Each cell on that grid can have a tile. One of any of your tiles in your sprite sheet can go there. And it's all controlled in the code side by a tile grid, right? Because it's a grid that holds tiles. So you have a sprite sheet like this one here. Each of those sprites is given an index like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to however many you have. And then when you go to fill in the tile grid, each location within that tile grid gets one of those indexes. So index number 7 there is the sort of plain empty floor tile in this particular example. And you can see in this example here, all the ones in the center of the grid there have a number 7. All the ones along the top have a 4 because that's the top center wall. The corners have their own, so on and so forth. And so a tile grid, it basically maps these indexes from your bitmap sprite sheet into the two-dimensional grid that you would like to show on the screen. And that is really the core of how the entire tile map game engine, if you will, the whole rendering engine works based on this principle. We just fill in a tile grid with those indexes based on the ones we want from the sprite sheet. And then that tile grid gets added to a group just like anything else in display.io, and then we show that on the display like with display.show. So super high level there. You'll get a chance to see more of the details as I dive in. But if this kind of thing is interesting to you and you want to learn how to do it, I do recommend this guide. The one I wrote back here is a really good place to start. And then this multiple tile grids, again, this one is a pre-existing one. It's just in the display.io guide. This is really the page. Once you master the concepts on this page, then you will be ready to dive in headfirst into tile map games, and it will totally make sense how it's rendering everything. There is one, I will say there is one sort of layer on top of all of that stuff of extra complication, which is the camera. The camera view down here is the last page in this guide. Again, I won't dive in super deep, but the core idea of the camera is that you can have a map that's bigger than what you can represent on the screen at any given time. So especially Pygamers, it's a relatively small screen. Even with 16 by 16 tiles, we still can only fit 8 by 10 tiles on the screen. And it's nice to have a game, where the maps are bigger than 8 by 10. So the way we solve that is by using a camera. We set it up to where at any given time, the player can view an 8 by 10 grid represented like by this yellow rectangle here, but the actual map can be bigger, represented by this blue line out here. And the map does not have to be perfectly rectangular. So you can see here that it cuts in, right? It kind of has an indentation there. And then what will happen is the yellow box that represents what's visible, it will follow the player around. So if the player moves up by 1, then this box will shift up by 1, and it will reveal more of the map in that direction. So once you learn the basics of the tile grids, the camera view is the next thing that goes on top of that. It builds on top of those concepts of the tile grid in order to be able to let you have maps that are bigger, again, than what you can see on the screen. So this is pretty much the logic. These two things I just talked about, these are going to be the logic that I'm going to be trying to implement using the maps that come out of this tiled editor here. So that kind of sets the stage for what we're going to be looking at for most of the time. Before I dive in all the way on that, though, I do want to look at a couple PRs on the display text. So if you've checked out these streams before, you know display text is somewhere I spend a fair amount of time. I do a lot of stuff in display IO in general, and display text is the library I kind of first got started on when I first got started. So it's been something that I kind of always go back to and check up on. And this week in display text news, we have 2 PRs by Jose. One of them I was looking at before we got on the stream here, and it's looking pretty good to me. The one thing I think we need to hold off for the pilot changes, just because this is not passing actions, so I'm not 100% sure. I'll talk to Katney on Monday or sometime this week when I have a minute. We can see if we actually need to hold off on that for not. It might be that we're just merging stuff right now without. I'm not sure. But this is making tabs work. So it used to be within display text, or I shouldn't say used to be, but currently in the published display text, if your text includes tabs, then they just get, do they get ignored or do they get stripped? I'm not 100% sure. I think they just get ignored, but they might even get stripped. I'm not sure. Whatever it is, though, they do not work correctly. They don't show as visible tabs when you look at the text. So that is what we want to fix. That's what Jose has fixed with this PR. So basically the approach that was taken, I'm going to dive into the code just real quick. The approach that was taken here is pretty much just replacing those tabs with 4 spaces, right? Which I think makes sense. That's what we do in code, like Black does that for you, Black formatter and stuff like that. So I think that makes sense. That's definitely the easiest solution I could come up with as well. And I tested it out a little bit ago, and it is working. I'll run that real quick here. I happen to have this open still. Test tabs. I tried this out on the PyPortal as well, and it was working fine there. But for the sake of the stream, I'll just run it here on the old Pygame display, just because that's easy to do. So you can see here in the input text, we have a tab at the beginning, which is in fact represented right there. Then we have a tab is mixed into here with some real spaces. So this is showing that, if you intermix the tab with the real spaces, it still works as well. So we got, essentially looks like 2 tabs worth there, 8 spaces. And that one's looking good. And then the rest of these ones, you can see how the tabs are lined up here. This one, it's between those characters. And that has worked good there. Got some real spaces. And so this is all looking pretty good to me. The changes look good as well in the code side. The only thing I could think of that we might want to do down the line, I don't think it's worth it just yet. I left a comment with this as well, is maybe add a parameter eventually. If somebody, because like if somebody sets their text in and then accesses their text back out, they might get confused that it doesn't have the tabs in it anymore. I don't know if it will be a problem. If it's not a problem, then I say we don't mess with the extra complexity, truthfully. If anybody does come to that problem, or excuse me, come to us with that problem, then maybe we just add another parameter. It's a Boolean, true or false. It defaults to, true, so that we get this behavior and they can turn it off if they want. But yeah, this is looking good to me. I left a review on there a little while ago. And then the other one is the vertical text. So let me go back to PRs. Let me check the chat here too. Sit tight. Oh, Katney, you already talked to Katney. Okay, sit tight. Yeah, I think it's going to be coming pretty soon. I don't know exactly when. I think there's something in Adabot for it now. Dylan was working on it. I haven't kept a close eye on it. I know Hugo's been working on that. might have a better idea of what stage it's in. I think we're just waiting until probably Dylan has got the time to run it, but I'm not sure. Maybe that patch in AdaBots needs to be cleaned up still or something. Can you specify the number? You cannot currently. It's hard-coded to 4. Yeah, hard-coded to 4. So maybe maybe eventually, instead of a parameter that's just strictly on-off, maybe we could have a parameter that's like you pass a string that you want to replace it with, and the default is 4 spaces. That way, if you wanted to do 2 spaces, you could just, you'd pass that string as 2 spaces. If you wanted to cut them entirely, you could just pass an empty string. That might be the way to go. Instead of just on off, that way it covers both of those use cases. You can still turn it off by passing the tab character /t, the escape thing, because then it would replace with itself, which would effectively make it do nothing. And then you could, again, default it to 4 or change it to 2 or 3 or 1 or whatever else you want. Wonder how many spaces is used to store tab replacing spaces. Yeah, I'm sure, right? Could do it that way. Yep, exactly right. Can have it replace itself. Yeah, that's probably what I would do, actually. That's maybe worth it to do. That's maybe worth it to do even before anybody comes back to us with the problem. I like the kind of flexibility of being able to choose, like if you want 2 tabs or 4 tabs, or something else entirely. If you want like asterisks or hyphens or who knows. I kind of like that idea. So that might be worth doing, especially if we have to wait on the Pylon changes before we merge anyway. I kind of like that. So if that's something you're interested in, Jose, I'd say go for it on that extra parameter. The other one we're going to look at here is the vertical text. Vertical text. Oh, I shouldn't have closed that, should I? Here, let me just reopen that. We'll check out this game as well. I forgot to mention this when I was going over the recap of the tile map games. Reload. Undo. There we go. And I'll just go back to PRs and vertical. This is the other cool one. So this goes along with Hugo's work on the vertical progress bar. We looked at that. Did we look at that? I think we looked at that last week. And so, Jose got the idea after seeing that vertical progress bar, like, wouldn't it be cool if we could also have vertical text to go along with it? So Jose has worked on this, whipped up this PR here, which gives us the ability to do that. We talked about it a little bit for any of you who are in tune with the community throughout the week. We talked about this on the meeting on Monday last week a little bit. In the weeds, I think we were talking about the ways to do this, and this transpose XY came out, and so Jose got to work last week and figured this out for us, and it's looking pretty good. I haven't run this one yet, but I was looking through the code a little bit, and I was looking through these screenshots here, and everything is looking pretty good to me. I did see that newest note that you put in there. Did I ever actually finish writing a reply? I think I might have just... Yeah, I didn't. Looks like, okay, we got an issue created here, though. Yeah, I talked about it a little bit ago. And I started writing out a reply, and then just, I probably still have it open in a tab over here somewhere. But I never finished it up. But this is good. I'm glad we created this. This would be my concern here. My guess on this one, so, we'll have to wait for Pylon as well. But the other thing is, my guess is we'll want to get this fixed in the core probably before we go ahead and actually merge this vertical text in. Could you try it with 602 or 620 beta 2? Yeah, we could do that actually. Let's do that. Why don't we do that? We can do that on the stream, I think. Jose, unless if you are, do you have a mag tag? I don't know. If you're already testing that out, I don't want to like step on your toes or anything. But if you don't have a mag tag, or if it's cool with you, then I can try that out. We can get back to Dan. Let me know in the chat. And I guess Jose said yes, but I'm not sure how long ago. I think that was Yeah, okay, you guys, I think are talking about the, you folks are talking about the progress bar from last week. So yeah, let me know, Jose, if you think that's cool, if you want to do that with me here on the stream, or if you got it taken care of already, please do it. Okay, cool. Yeah, I will. I'll have to go. I'll run and grab the mag tag. I'll run and grab that. But yeah, that's perfect. And then we can get back to Dan. Dan will know what to do. Yeah, it might just be fixed. And if not, then Dan will know what to do. So let me go and grab that real quick. Because it is not right here ready to go, but I can get it. So I'll be right back. Go. And one thing is magtag is USB-C, which I've got USB micro loaded up, so let me also grab another cable here. There we go. Okay, and 1 second, I'm gonna put my hoodie off here. Forgot to do that before I got started. Okay. So first thing we need to do is plug in the mag tag and update the mag tag, because definitely mine has got some old version of CircuitPython on it. So that's plugged in. Let's just for posterity's sake, let's check out what version. Let's check out what version is actually on it. Let me unplug the Pygamer so that we've only got one device going here. And let's check out the version. Oh, actually, that is 6202. It's from the 11th. Is there a newer one? I'm just gonna grab the newest one just in case. No harm in redoing it, even if it's the same thing. Beta 2, it does look the same, but like I said, I'm just gonna grab the new one. No harm in updating. Well, that's not true. Sometimes there's harm in updating. Not usually with CircuitPython, truthfully, though. But Linux, boy, it's tough some days. So I have the UF2 bootloader on my magtag. So you know, if it out of the box, the very earliest ones, they had the other kind of bootloader where you need the bin file, but there's a process you can use to switch it to a UF2 bootloader. That way you can use the same process as most of the rest of the devices, which is going to be double click on reset, which I always forget. Okay, yeah, reset is the one closest to the USB here. So we'll double click that. Get the speed right, there it is, and the colors are what tells us that we're in bootloader mode on this one. So they turn red. It's kind of the light's not going to focus on them. Maybe if I turn the light on the camera off, I don't know if it's worth it. This is probably just me being distracted, but let's if we turn that off for a second, then you can maybe see better the green. So they turn red first and then green. That tells us we're in bootloader mode. The other thing is they show the name of the drive now has boot in the name. Magtag boot is what this one is. So I'll go to downloads. We'll grab that UF2. And we'll just drop that on magtag boot. Okay, maybe we can go like that. You can see the progress here. So while it's copying those LEDs, they flash a bunch, just to show the writing, I guess, going on. It's around the time of the stream, folks. When will the magtag be back in stock? Oh, are they out of stock right now? Yeah, it was tough. It was tough there for a while. I don't think I was in the first batch. I think I got the second batch when they did finally come, and then my guess is they're still catching up, maybe from the AdaBox. I think a lot of folks got ADA boxes with mag tags in them. Okay, let me go back to straight here. Yeah, it's painful. Yeah, it was tough at the beginning. It's gotten a lot better. It's gotten a lot better. The size gets me a little bit still. The way it's, you only have, I think it's one meg or a little bit under a meg maybe, or something like that. It's very small compared to a lot of the devices. I hope we get an Express sometime with a little bit more breathing room on the file system. Okay, here we go. We've updated. We're on 6.2.0 beta 2, which is the same date. It was the same one, so we were already on, but again, no harm. We want to... you know what? We're going to be smart about this, which I was not so smart the last time I did something like this. We're going to put a time.sleep in front of the code that is going to crash the device. That way it will not have any possibility of getting... That way we can get it out of a boot loop by saving over the file. So it's going to go to safe mode hopefully anyway, which is going to give us the ability to get out of it. But it's also good if you know that you're testing a thing that's going to crash the system maybe. I always like to put this extra sleep at the beginning. That way there's time to save over the file when it comes back up next time. Do we need this? No, this is just progress bar example code. We don't really need this. So I want to try to isolate it. I guess though for now I'll just run the example code that's there. But eventually I think we'll need to go back and isolate. We maybe not need to, I guess, especially if Dan's already seen it a little bit. But eventually it might be good to have a smaller case that just uses tile grid to illustrate it. So this is the test code, and this is already set up to run on a microcontroller. Perfect. So let's just drop that in here, and some things we'll need to change. I don't know if I have both of these fonts for sure on this device. I do not. I'm just going to use the same font for both for now. foamyguy, please see the issue in the core. Yeah, let me oh, there is example code. My bad. Yeah, I got ahead of myself here and was looking down further. Thank you. So yeah, we don't need all of that. We can do just this part. Yeah, this is perfect. Thank you for that. Sorry I missed it at the beginning there. Every time the mag tag sends my Ubuntu, so my system is Pop! OS and it's based on Ubuntu. Hopefully that does not happen to me. I've seen folks reporting issues like that on Ubuntu before, and I've, knock on wood, fingers crossed, whatever your luck thing of choice is, I have not run into that yet. So hopefully that stays the case. But if I suddenly disappear on the stream, then that's probably what happened, and I will try to come back in a minute and not do it again. Let's import time. Let's go time.sleep. Let's just do something, we'll say like 8 seconds. Just long enough that we could save over the file if we needed to. And everything else is set up here. So let me get the serial. And then we can save this. And yeah, it was progress bar example, so there's nothing else in CodePy that we need to keep. Right before I hit save, I always try to think about what I'm going to be overwriting. Okay, so code output, we're in the sleep, and yep, it says can't be displayed, and you can see it's reconnecting here. And it showed here I'll show on the camera also, it shows purple blinking lights, which is the way the mag tag tells you it crashed, I guess. Let me go mu over here. And it's going to be reconnecting each time. So mine, it looks like, is doing a little bit differently. It's not going to safe mode. I don't think, because if it were going to safe mode, it would be not running the CircuitPy, and therefore it would not be continuing to reboot, I don't think. One thing I'll do just to make it easier to see what's going on is turn this to a for loop. This is really not super important, but it will we'll be able to actually see when we're connected to the serial port. Because of the way it's boot looping, it's disconnecting the serial. You know, the other thing I guess I could do is use TO, and then it would just auto reconnect. Good to put the code into its test. Oh yeah, that way it's all through the import. That way there's only one. You can have like a high level thing to quick change, or you could just go delete the other file too, or rename it or whatever. Yeah, that's a good idea. I like that. Okay, let's just print one of these. And this will make it, I think, oh, I have, oh yeah, in. There we go. So now after it comes back up, we'll be able to see if we stay connected. No, disconnected. Whoops. 4. So it's just printing. One thing I wonder, I'm just kind of curious. This is not the right, I don't know the right name for this. TTY. Should stop it from rebooting while it's doing this, maybe. Too late. There we go. Dev. I'm just curious to see if it prints anything at the beginning or the end. It doesn't look like it is, but is that it? Yeah. And maybe we probably need to close that. Can you send TO, is that output only? Guess I don't actually know. Or maybe it got messed up because this was open. That's my other guess. Yeah, it seems like it's not going to there. Maybe I did something wrong with the device. Yeah, I did. I'm missing /tty. Dev tty acm0. No. Need to put a baud rate. I thought I did. Is it just 9600 or? -B. The other thing is it got changed to be 1. what the baud rate? Do they do 9600? No. The other thing is, if this is open, it would interrupt it, right? Is that what's messing me up here? No. 15.2. Huh. I don't know. Oh, I do not. This is not /TTY. Okay. Can you tell I don't use this thing very much? I just actually tried it out for the first time last week sometime, I think, before the stream. TO. I could have swore that I was, that it had a default baud rate before. TTY ACM0-B, and I have ACM1 instead. There we go. Now it says connected, and we can do stuff. Whew. Thank you. Sorry for that taking forever, but thank you for hanging in there with me and letting me know how to do that. So yeah, back to the thing. Really, the thing I wanted to see was when it runs, does it print anything right before it crashes or right after it reboots is really what I'm interested in. And this auto connecting will hopefully show us. Maybe not though. It came back. I bet you it came back as ACM. I bet you it came back as ACM 0. Or 2 maybe. 0. There we go. So it did not, well, it's still cutting off the beginning because it printed 2 instead of 1. So we never got to see the 1 get printed because it came before we connected. I don't know, it's probably not printing anything else though, truthfully. If we were super curious, we could maybe, can we? I was gonna say write it to a file. I don't think we can though. If it's like a hard crash, we probably can't catch the exception to write it to a file or something. Let me catch up on the chat here. Baud rate we got, I bet it was always 1 because you had the Pygamer. Yeah, I think you're right. When I plugged it in, it was the second one, therefore it got 1, and then once it started rebooting, it eventually switched back to 0 because I unplugged the Pygamer. Could be Pygame. On my mag tag, I have the message from the REPL call import code to see what it prints. There we go. So we can see the first one there. And then let's see. I guess it's still going to crash. Disconnect, reconnect, but then it will start running again. But it's only going to start running because it's named code, I guess. If we renamed it like not code or whatever, we could import it, run it once, and then have it not boot loop. Okay. I think that's what we need to know, though. We got this tested. It does not do safe mode, but it does crash and reboot. So let's put that feedback. I always like to just copy my boot out. That way it's got all the information about the device and the version. Put it in a code box here so it's nice and easy to copy paste if anybody needs it. Not getting safe mode, but the device does hard crash and reboot. You need to put anything else? I don't think so. Okay. Yeah, for sure. Thank you for working on this and for catching that as well. Honestly, that's a good catch to make sure to find that on that device. It's really good that we caught that before somebody else. Because, like a new user, if somebody, just a new AdaBox user or somebody who's not used to this kind of stuff gets that and their thing just starts crashing, like that's the kind of thing that can frustrate folks pretty easily. So it's really good if, one of us who is like maybe not as prone to getting as worried by it can find that. That's really good always. Missed the early part. How's it going, K-Match? When you do code block on GitHub, you can put the language. Yeah, you can. This one was, I guess text or something. It doesn't really have a language in this case because it was just boot out. But yeah, you can do like triple ticks. You can do that in Discord as well if you do triple ticks like that. Python. Whoops. Still not used to the arrow keys on this keyboard. That's one of the last things I'm trying to get used to. If you do it like that, then it will do syntax highlighting based on the language. So this knows it's Python and it knows strings should be turquoise and all that. It will know Python keywords and stuff as well. Yeah, thanks for the tip, Hugo. Okay, so we got that in. Again, thanks to Jose for working on all of this stuff. This is great stuff. I like both of these. The tab fix and the way to do the vertical text here I think is really nice too. That way, if you want to make your, if you want to save space in your interface or something like that, you can do it. Before, I think your only option would have been like, if you wanted text like this, you would have to like rotate the whole display, right? But that's totally different. That's going to rotate everything you show, which you might not want. So it's really cool to be able to have this. Another thing I think would be nice eventually is if we could do vertical. I guess you could split it with new lines or something. But it'd be cool if there was just a thing that would write it like downwards. Like the glyphs are the correct orientation, but they just go down. That might be kind of cool. And we might need that if we ever want to support character languages, like languages without, languages that are laid out vertically like that. But this is awesome. I'm super stoked to see this. Okay, we left feedback here. So let's come wrap it back around into the tile map games. Before I dive into the tiled stuff, I'll show this. This is another tile map game I created. It is more advanced, so like if you have never messed with tile map games before, this is the learn guide you want to check out first, creating your first tile map game. This one uses pretty much the same engine. It uses the same CSV map type of layout for the maps, and it also uses the same code structure, which you'll learn about in this guide again. So it's a big state machine, and then each type of tile can have a function, like a behavior function. So tile types, it lists right here. There's a big dictionary which lists all the different tile types. They have a key for the name. And so in this one, that key is what goes into the spreadsheet. So, anywhere where you wanted to have this tile appear, inside the spreadsheet, it would say Mo right there. And this holds all the information it needs to make the game work. So it's got the sprite index, which of course we need to have that so we can show which sprite. And then it's got the information for the game. So in this game, it's pretty basic. It's got, like whether or not you're allowed to walk on it, whether or not it's an entity or just a regular tile. And then it's got this one here before move, which is a function. You put a function there, and it will call that function like, you know, before the user steps onto that tile. Looks like I froze the Discord again. Did I minimize that? I don't know. I'm probably going to end up switching back to the other one. But it will call this function for you before you walk on the tile. So in this case, it says take item. So this one will like take the item and put it into your inventory. But there's other behaviors that can do other things as well. And so, you know, again, this is kind of the one in the Learn Guide here. This is a very basic one. Talk about the behavior functions down here. This one that I'll point out here on, this is on Hackaday.io. It's called, a game I made, it's called Blinka's Breakout. If you've ever played the old Atari game, Chips Challenge, let me pull up the picture of that just because you might recognize it by the titles. If you ever played this whole old Atari game, or really where I first was introduced to this game was not Atari for me, but it was on like Windows, like this old Windows. I don't know if it came pre-bundled or if I got it in a game pack or downloaded it. I think this was maybe even before internet was like super big, so I don't think I downloaded it. I think we had a disc for it maybe or something. But it's this kind of puzzle game. You walk around this character, and there's obstacles like locked doors, for instance. Like this one has got locked doors. You have to collect a key in order to unlock it. So the red key unlocks the red door. And then the primary, you know, objective is you have to collect these chips right here, these computer chips. You collect those, and then once you collect them all, you go to the chip socket up here. And that's like it finishes the level. You beat the level. And then there was just a bunch of levels. I don't even know how many, probably hundreds. Looking back on it as a kid, it felt like hundreds. I don't know if there were actually that many, but there were just a bunch of different levels, and you had to kind of use problem solving to figure out how to get everything, because you have to go collect the keys. And then there's also obstacles like this one. It shows the other types of obstacles, like things you can walk on, like fire. If you walk on the fire, then you die, you lose. You have to start over. If you pick up the fire boots, the red boots, then you're allowed to walk on the fire and it doesn't harm you. There's water, and if you go in the water, like you drown, so you lose, you have to start over. But if you get the water shoes, if you get those flippers, then you're allowed to go in the water and you can move. If you get the ice skates, then you're allowed to go on the ice. Now the ice is different. It doesn't it doesn't kill you. It won't make you start over, but you can't get traction. Like it makes you slide. It makes you like slide all the way until the edge of it, and it shoots you around these corners like this, which is actually kind of fun. I used to like doing that. But so like in this case, if you were to walk on right here, you would slide, turn, slide, turn, slide, and you would end up right back here, and you'd have no ability to stop in the middle there. So if you go and get your ice skates though, then you can walk on it just like it's normal. And then the last one are these conveyor belts. So they go in the direction that they're pointing. So they're a lot like the ice, where you slide and you don't get traction. You can't just stop walking wherever you want. But they only go in a single direction. The ice will slide no matter it just goes whichever way you walked onto it. You slide, going straight, whereas these you slide the direction of the arrows. So if you walk on them, top down on these, you would just get shot right back up. If you walk down from this side or something, then you would get shot over. So that's Chip's Challenge, and then I made a version of this with CircuitPython called Blinka's Breakout. And it's basically the exact same game. I'll pull up a couple of the screenshots here. We can poke through them, but it's basically the same game. You're Blinka in this one instead of the little chip character. The shoes are very basic there. The shoes are just those little rectangle shoes, but it's got all the same tile type. So there's the conveyors. This one has got the ice in the middle there. Let's see. I don't know if I've got screenshots. Maybe there's one with fire in it. There's some doors. So there's 4 different colors of doors, if I recall correctly. Oh, I changed up the way the ending works a little bit. You still collect the chips, but instead of going to the socket, you take them to the robo, the AdaBot robot there. And then I also added, after you go to the AdaBot, then you go and try to get the heart, and that's the way you finish the level, is by getting the heart. So just, you know, slightly different mechanics, but it's pretty much just a substitute in for the blue vortex thingy and the chip socket in the regular game. There's some fire there on that one. So again, this is a more advanced game. After you have kind of got the basics down from that guide, if you're interested in another one, or the other thing is if you just want to play this game, you can totally go and do it. You can just grab the code for this, throw it on your device, and play it, and you don't necessarily need to understand too much about it or dive too deeply into the code. So this one's fun. I wanted to point that one out just to show, in case anybody is like me and played that game as a kid, has nostalgia for it. Let me catch up on the chat, and then we'll dive into the new stuff. Don't think it came with Windows. Yeah, slide on the ice. That's my jam too. Here we go. I always love sliding. There was one of them where you could slide like all the way around in a circle. That was really fun. Flip the stream back on. Used to play this game all the time. Yeah, how's it going, John? Yeah, that game. I never knew the name of it. You know what happened is I wanted to make a tile map. This was I did a lot of this work at Super Conference, Hackaday Super Conference last year. They gave out Edge Badge, which is pretty much like a Pi Gamer. It's a very similar device. And I was using that, and I wanted to make a tile map game, and I had like memory of playing this game as a kid, but I didn't know the name of it. And I made a similar type of game. I'll pull this up real quick. Undo on Hackaday. Here, I'll just go back to Hackaday.io. I made the precursor to that, which this precursor is actually closer to what's in the Learn Guide. The Learn Guide essentially grew out of this older Hackaday.io project. So this was the project that was just generically showing how to use those CSV tile maps. So I created this one first. And when I was creating this, I had this memory of playing this game as a kid in mind, but I had no idea what the name of the game was, and I didn't remember as many of the specifics about it. I just kind of had rough ideas of sliding around and having to collect keys and solve puzzles and stuff. But I made this one, and then somebody commented on here the name of the game, and this is how I rediscovered that game. I went and searched that, and I was like, yes, this is the exact thing that I was trying to make. That's like pretty much exactly what I had in mind. So from there, I dove in. I went and found, you can play it online now. There's JavaScript versions and stuff, so you can go play it online. And I did that, had a lot of fun, and then I was like, okay, I definitely have to make this. Let me pull up this one. This looks fun, too. I might have played this one as well. I remember a similar puzzle game. This one's using mice. Nice. So you have to go collect the cheese and stuff. Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. But anyway, that's how I got into tile map games. I created that CSV thing first with Chip Challenge in mind, and then went back once somebody had filled me in on the name and reminded me of that. Then I was able to kind of go back and build that. I probably froze the chat there. Rodent's Revenge. Yeah, that's awesome stuff. Shoes on Blinkit. Yeah, I thought about that when I was making it. Maybe making some kind of joke, either changing the shoes up to be something different, or making some kind of joke where Blinka would start wearing shoes or something. But I ended up just leaving them in. Blinka in space and on Mars. That'd be cool. A few other games. Yeah. Okay. So that's the kind of game we want to do. Again, we're going to be looking at tiled. So let me get some stuff loaded up here. I think to start with, I need to load the sprite sheet into tiled, because the sprite sheet has got those sprites, and we need those in order to start working to start working inside there. Let me check the preview. Yeah, everything's looking good. Okay. So I've got this down. Oh, you know what? Let me switch back to the PyGamer because I've got the mag tag plugged in here. There we go. Rearrange some of this stuff. Okay. Let's try to get that straight-ish. The cord doesn't really want to go straight. There we go. So yeah, first thing I need to do is load my sprite sheet into Tiled. So I'm going to show you how to do that. If you've never used Tiled before, this map editor, don't worry, it's not super advanced. It is a free thing. Here, let me show where I got this thing. I should do that. Tiled. Just search for it like this. So yeah, this is the main page for it, I guess. Here they've got mapeditor.org. Its name, the actual name of the program is Tiled, and then they have a couple ways you can download it. One of them here is you download it and it goes from itch.io. It is free, so you can download it. You don't have to pay for it. I think you can support somehow, maybe with Patreon or paying somewhere for it. I should look into that because I should do it because it's, here we go. A couple of ways, actually. They offer a couple of ways. GitHub sponsors, Patreon, or this one, LibraPay. I'm not familiar with this. Donations, interesting. I should toss a couple coins this person's way though, because this is a really cool tool. It's really awesome of them to create it and release it for free. Okay, so yeah, this is the program I'm going to be using. I've already downloaded it. It's already installed for me. If you're interested in working along, or if you want to do this in the future, this is where you would download it from. It's this website here, Tiled. We need to grab the sprite sheet, so let me get a copy of that. I think, let me see these previews. I think we want the one with green. So in the project, there's actually 3 different sprite sheets here. One of them is the most basic one. It's got white, and that's actually the one that came from the Display.io Learn Guide. There's another one where it has green in the background because we use that green to make transparency. And this stuff is all talked about in the guide. Again, I'll show you the page this is on. It is on the rendering and movement page, I believe. So it's got basic rendering where we render the white one. It's got basic movement code, and then down at the bottom, oh no, next page over, index BMP graphics. This is the one where it talks about the transparency and it goes over the steps on how I got this into here. So I'm not going to do all of that on the stream, but you can see how we got to these assets again in that Learn Guide. And the one that I actually want to use here is going to be this one, which actually has all the different characters. It's got 6 characters. Plus, it's got all the tiles for the wall. So I'm going to grab that, and I'm just going to make a new folder to work on inside of CircuitPython. I'll probably go back eventually and make this a repository in GitHub, but for right now, I'm just going to start throwing it all here. So I'm going to call this tiled game test because I'm not very creative. And then, even though I just named it, I'm going to rename it to tiled map game test to be a little bit more specific. Now I'm going to paste this sprite sheet into here, and then we can load this inside of the editor. So tiled. One thing is I already have something loaded here. I was working on a platformer game at one point, and that's what came preloaded. I don't really need that, so I'm going to close it. I also was working on this one, which has a road here, but this is also a different thing. We don't need it, so I'm going to close it. And now we can set up the new one. So I think, yeah, I don't do this very often. I think we want to do a new map first, but if not, then we'll go back and change this. We do not have 96 pixels for the tiles. These are 16 for our game, which is 16 is pretty good for the Pygamer because you can get 8x10 tiles, which is not a whole lot, but it's enough that you can see some stuff. Yeah, MakeCode, that'd be cool to have it render into MakeCode as well. I don't know as much on the MakeCode side how to do stuff, but that would be really awesome. I like the way they've got the honestly, what's really cool about MakeCode is the way it can switch back and forth. It's like JavaScript and Blockly. Being able to switch back and forth like that and see the same program written both different ways, I think is potentially super helpful for people learning to code. So that's one of the things. I wish we had one of those for Python that would switch back and forth like that. I happen to know that the Pygamer is this size, 160 by 128. I just know that because I worked on it for a little while. You can find it on the product page or somewhere, which happens to work out to 8x10 tiles or 10x8 tiles with 16x16. We do want orthogonal. CSV is fine, I think. We're going to end up actually saving as a JSON file. That's fine. So yeah, let's try this. Eventually we would also come back and make this bigger than 8x10. Like the map, you know, I was talking about the camera earlier and how that allows you to make a map that's bigger. So eventually we would allow that. But let's take it one kind of step at a time. So let's just call this, I don't know, test map 0. I have a feeling we're going to end up making more than one of these. So it says the extension, something might not recognize it. That's fine. So one thing is, looks like it just saved it with no extension, which is not actually necessarily what we want. I think what we want to do is go save as, and then let's choose JSON. So yeah, it's going to give us this warning, but now it's going to save a JSON file, and no, this is definitely an XML file. So the first thing we need to do, this, I think XML is the default language for the default format for tiled maps. Tiled is the name of the editor. The concept of tile maps, more generally, you know, a bunch of them probably do use XML, but I think it's not probably set in stone. There are lots using different ones as well, but I was wrong. So I think there is a way though somewhere. Let me figure out. I've done this before, but it's been a minute. Maybe we want to go save as is their choices. Yeah, maybe we need to choose JSON map files here and save it as JSON. We do want to replace it because the other one was wrong. We don't care about that warning. Let me close that and reopen this text. This is still not JSON. Let's try. Let me just get this open in PyCharm also, because I don't really trust that text editor. Sometimes that text editor, I see it doesn't refresh when I change the file. So I don't think that's what's happening here. I think it is still saving the wrong format, but just before I get down the road of like closing and opening it a million times out of paranoia, we're just going to switch because I know that PyCharm does do this better. Unfortunately, this is in order of alphabetical. I don't remember the name I chose. We need tile map. Also, it doesn't always show the newest ones. So let me refresh. There it is. We'll just go to this window. We can terminate that. Yeah, that's just the old Pygame app running. Okay, it's definitely XML. And Pygame, I mean PyCharm rather, will definitely change when I save over the file. So let me just delete this one. Let's try a new one. Do I want a new tile set? I think I usually make the map first and then I import the tile set. So maybe if I was going to save the tile set by itself, that would be cool. But I think we want to do a map first and figure this out. Base 64. I think we can leave CSV. So that's going to be the actual map data, which you can see here is comma separated inside the XML file. It's going to be comma separated inside our JSON file as well, once we figure out how to make it do JSON. So maybe if we save it the first time with this, I'm going to just go ahead also and bump to 1. Test map 1 JSON. Maybe if we choose JSON the first time we create this, and now we save it. I don't know why it does this warning like every time. Nope, still XML. Maybe was it export? I swear I've done this before. Or, I mean, I guess we could try JavaScript. Surely that's... Let's just go 2. Nope, still XML. Let's try export. So yeah, unfortunately, this is going to be a fair amount. This is the kind of thing I'm going to be working through because I don't have very much experience with tiled, so you'll have to bear with me a little bit. Maybe export as. Then we go JSON. I'll go back and delete these once I figure out the right way to do this. There we go. Now we're looking good. It's on. That's the raw data right there. So it is not comma separated. Actually, I mean, there's commas between them, but it's not like a list. Has the square brackets there to say that it's a list. And so we get all these other options as well, which are interesting stuff. We get meta information about the map, so size that's the size in pixels of the tiles. We got the width. There's probably a height somewhere as well, right there, height and width of the actual map. There's a Boolean flag for infinite. I've never messed with making it. That might be kind of cool. That way you could just keep going in every direction. It would like procedurally generate new parts for you. That could be pretty cool to play with that at some point, but for now we're going to leave it false. It's good to see it's there. You can have, one of the cool things about this is you can have multiple layers within your map. Oh. Connection to what network? Did I do that? Do you guys still see and hear me? Let me know in the chat if I'm still live. Sure, I'm still in the network there. I think there's a little bit of a delay as well, so we'll wait and see. I don't want to go too far if I'm not actually on anymore. Not getting anything back. Uh-oh. I don't know what that thing was saying a connection to. I might have leaned on the key. Now we got it. Okay, so I think it's catching up. So I'm still live. Okay. Okay. I don't know what that pop-up was. Something, I was scared that it was telling me the network was disconnected for a second. few glitches. Okay, maybe it did. I will say I did forget to switch to Ethernet like I mean to do sometimes. I am on Wi-Fi, so it's not as good as it could be. And it does hitch on me sometimes. So if it does that, if I end up getting kicked, I'll try to come back pretty quick. But okay, where was I? So one of the cool things about tiled is you're allowed to have multiple layers, which is really cool because you can do stuff like separate your tiles and your entities logically. So you can do things like put all the walls on one layer, put the floors on a different layer, put the, entities like, enemies or friendly NPCs on one layer. You can separate stuff out like that so that logically, it's all separate. It makes it easier to think about and deal with a little bit. You don't have to. You can put everything on one layer if you want. And you kind of have some freedom. You can use those layers for different things. Like you don't have to use them how I was talking about, like putting walls on one and floors on one. You could also use them as like different parts of the map if you want to like go from one place to another place, like inside a building and outside a building. Usually that's, two different maps or something. You could do it as 2 layers instead, for instance. YouTube glitched several times. Yeah, I'm guessing my own connection. It does this thing where it will be gone for like 7 or 8 seconds and then kind of come back. It does that every now and then. My guess is it did that, and like the buffering in different places managed to make it better or worse in different spots. But hopefully it won't keep going too bad. So let's load. We got it finally figured out how to save the correct format. We do use export. We want to export it and then choose JSON, and then also we want to make sure to do a .json file extension, and that does get our file out for us. So that's exactly how we'll save it when we're ready. The next thing we want to do is load up our sprite sheet, or what they call it inside the software. They call it a tile set. So we want to load that up by creating a new tile set. We will just call this test tile set. I'm not feeling very creative right now. Ordinarily, eventually we would probably name this after the game. So like if we had a particular name for the game in mind, we could probably call this like, Blinka's Breakout tile set or something like that. But this is not for Blinka's Breakout, and I don't know what the name of the game is going to be. So for now, we're just going to give it that. Do we want to embed it in the map? No, I don't think so. That would probably embed it, I think, as like base64 images. Based on tile set image. I don't think we want that because in CircuitPython, it's going to end up being just a bitmap file, BMP file. We don't need it to be inside the map. We will just have a reference probably to it in the map. It will have a little thing that tells it the sprite sheet file. So I don't think we want it embedded, but I am kind of curious actually. I'm going to leave it on. We'll see what it does. Because that's the other part of this is I just want to explore this stuff. I haven't messed with this software too much, and so I don't know all the different things it can do. So I also just kind of want to poke around some. So we choose our sprite sheet right there. So under source, we choose the sprite sheet. We can set up a transparent color. So we want it to be green. I don't know if this is preset to like all the way green or not. Maybe we could, here we go. It's kind of small. Also, it doesn't look like, that didn't look like the right color. The preview is, but the thing I clicked doesn't look right. Oh well, let's see what it does. Transparent color, so we do want these height and width set correctly. Sometimes sprite sheets, they'll have a margin in between sprites. There will be a little bit of extra pixels, but this one does not. They're right up next to each other. There's no space in between them. So the first 16 pixels is the first tile. The next 16 pixels is the second tile, no gap. So we want to leave this how it is. there was a gap, we would want to set one of those. Well, spacing would be a gap between tiles, and then margin, I think, would be a gap on the edges, around the edges of the BMP. So let's do that. I think we can zoom in. Yep, zoom in. So it does have all those greens. So this is the cool thing, is once we get this loaded up, we can just start drawing the tiles in. So like if we want the floor to be all the way on the inside, can just fill them in. If we want a wall on the top, we'll do like that. A wall on the bottom, sides, corners, and now let's put an entity. So Blinka, we could drop Blinka in there. She does have green behind her still. So our that thing we selected there did not work. Let's see if we can figure out how to fix that. Templates. Tile collision sets. I'm super interested in figuring this out. I don't know too much how to do it, and now is not the time. I'm gonna have to get transparency working first. But this is something I'll be interested to dive into, is the collision editor. You can basically mark tiles as like, you know, this tile collides with that tile or not, and then that way it can kind of automatically control your who's allowed to walk where stuff. I showed you a little while ago in the basic one, I have a function called can walk, I think, or I don't remember if I showed that. That's how it works in the basic one, though. It calls a function when it tries to walk on there, and that function will return true or false, whether they're allowed to walk on it or not. But I would like to be able to embed it in the map like this. This would be cool. But this is not the page I need. I was trying to find a page that would have those same settings that I put in. But I'm not seeing that stuff. Properties. How do you open this? Is this the only way to open this? Is by going to here? Okay, transparent color. It's not letting me change these though. Might just delete this and try again. I'm gonna try searching on Google real quick. I may not find anything and I'll just move on if not, but I'm kind of curious if anybody has told us why we can't edit those or what we do to edit them. Tiled, tile set properties disabled. Tile properties disabled. Tile set is external. Checking the small. Oh, you know what? This is ringing a bell. Edit tile set button below the tile set view. Which, but I think I'm already in the tile set. Edit tile set. Yeah, I was already in this. And they're disabled in there. wonder if there's a lock or something. Embedded and external. I think this import, clicking the small import tileset button will make the properties editable. It's been open all along. Based on a tile set image, that's what we want. Tile set properties, that's how we got to there. So it looks like they are recommending to save the tile set as its own thing, which we'll end up doing kind of anyway. I mean, we don't necessarily need much metadata, I don't think, for the tile set. So I think the BMP is really all we need. This does not tell me about why I cannot change them, though. Okay, I think what we'll do is just delete that and start again. Remove. Yes. New tile set. And let's just try green from here. I wish it would give me RGB like it does on the properties page. So maybe we need to not do this. I'm gonna try it one more time with it. So floor. No, we still have green. I am curious though, what if I want to see what it looks like when I save this. So export test map 3 with tileset maybe? Because I did make it embedded. So did it save anything extra? Yes. Okay, so I mean, I guess I could fix it here. I'm pretty sure that green is like all the way green, FF like 0 0 FF 0 0. So we could do it there, and I guess it would work. It'd be nice to figure out how to do it inside the editor. I mean, it'd also be nice if the paint dropper might just be doing it wrong. Wonder if it can zoom in. Yeah, this is 0 0 FF 0 0. So I could change it here. It's not the end of the world, but I would sure like to be able to do it in the inside of here. Huh, this one doesn't. Custom properties. Probability. There we go. No. Same thing. Okay, let me do not embedded. I mean, that would be weird, I think, if it suddenly started allowing me to edit them, but just out of curiosity. Should favorite this spot. I don't know why it's making me click through every time to all of these. This one's not embedded. Did not like that. Based on tile set image. No, it's not liking that very much. Doesn't seem like. Okay, so we need to have embedded on. So that's not a fix to turn that off. Can we make the eyedropper, can we like zoom in? Might be kind of nice if we could zoom in some. Maybe it would be able to click the right color if we could do that. The other thing is maybe it's getting thrown off because this is a indexed BMP. Maybe tiled is made to assume like full color. I mean, it's rendering it pretty okay though, so. No. Tried control mouse wheel, that doesn't really do anything. Honestly, it's getting the same incorrect color no matter where I click. So it seems like this thing just does not work for the picker. My guess is that it is because it's indexed. Out of curiosity, I'm going to try saving one unindexed. Getting into the weeds a little bit, but I'm just curious. Again, I just want to poke around with this and see how it works and see what different stuff does. So we're going to go RGB. We are going to export. Spreadsheet no index. Failed to load. So the other problem, the lovely world of Linux and free software is amazing, but one thing is that GIMP on my computer does this thing where the BMPs that GIMP saves are broken for some reason. So we actually need to do this as a PNG. And then we have converter script. Okay, PNG works. Copy. So for some reason, yeah, I don't know what it is. I haven't looked into it all the way. but GIMP, when it puts out those BMP files, they're broken. They don't show right in my editor or my preview thing. So I found that I can save it as a PNG, and that convert script I used right there was it's based on PIL, Python Imaging Library, and it just converts it from that PNG over to a bitmap. So now we've got this. It's looking kind of weird. It made the browns look very red and colorful, but I'm curious what it does inside here. No, doesn't make a difference. Honestly, it might just be an issue with bitmap altogether. Maybe this thing does not fully support bitmap. Maybe it's really, because like I mean, a mobile game or a modern PC game, you probably would use PNG or something like that. In which case, actually, it could have actual transparency too. It doesn't make a difference either, though. Okay, we'll just edit it in the JSON file, I guess. That seems like it's the only way that we've come up with so far, so let's do that. Let me delete some of those extra ones. We don't really need them. Don't need the PNG, don't need the no index BMP. Yeah, that's good. I have not been checking in on the Twitch chat. Okay, nothing in there. Let me pause this. I don't really need that running. Okay. So let me pull this chat back so it doesn't get frozen. All right. Choose the BMP. We do want it embedded. And then I guess what we'll do is let's just save this file, and then we can go edit the color. Then we'll reload it into here, and then I think it will maybe work for the transparency. So let's go. Does export? I don't know if export works like that. Control. We want Control E. Control E. It is saving it with tile set. Okay, so that's saved, I think. These are lowercase. Maybe we'll keep it consistent. Let's try green like that. And then let's reload this. Did I just load the JSON file? Yeah, I think so. So I'm going to close that even though it's not saved. I think what it's saying is it's not saved in the tiled format. Could try saving it, I guess, but I think it's going to be, yeah, XML, which is not what we want. So this one is what we want, though. And now I think if we open it, maybe it will respect our transparent color. Yes. So now down here, these things are hiding the green. And if we put them on this, we can draw some floor. We can put Adabot. We can put Blinka. We need layers though, actually. So the problem here we have now is that Adabot and Blinka are kind of on the same layer as the floor, which is making it totally replace one of the floor tiles. What we would want to do is have the floor tiles in the background, underneath or behind, depending on how you look at it, Adabot or Blinka there, and then they would show through. So we would need another layer, I think. Layer properties, we could make this background. We could make a new layer, probably this button, yep. Interesting, we got choices. We'll go tile layer. I'm not sure what the rest of those do. Entity layer, maybe. So on the background, we would put only the floor, but then on the entity layer, we can have AdaBot and Blinka, and now that's looking good. So those show up on top of the floor now. So that's perfect. So let me save this with Control E. Save it to this file. Yes. And one thing I notice here is that it thinks the name of this project, if you will, also is the same name as the JSON file that I'm exporting it as. The problem with that is that if I do a Control S, a regular save, I'm pretty sure it's going to save that XML file over top of my JSON, which I don't really want. So I think what I'm going to do is axe this project one more time, start back over, give it a name, give it a project name that doesn't have the JSON in it, let it save a copy as XML even though we're not going to use it, and then always export my JSON copy separately. That way there's never a risk of overwriting it, because I would hate if I did a bunch of work and got a map looking good and then accidentally went and overwrote it with XML that we can't even use, you know, in CircuitPython. So let's do that now that we've got this part of it figured out. So I'll just close this one. We can discard new map. All of that's good. We want, this is the, yep, we'll put it in this folder. Let's call this one good map, because this is kind of the first one where it's gonna actually, I think we might have everything we need to actually start importing it into CircuitPython code. So I will put a number though. Good map, I'm gonna call it good map 0. That way we can still keep adding more numbers as we work on this. File extension, yep, that's fine. Check the chat here. Okay, it's looking good. Select my tile set. Whoops. Doesn't really matter the name. We'll just leave it the default, I guess. It says sprite sheet BMP. Transparent, we're gonna have to change again. Ah, here we go. All right, now we can do this all in one step. Okay, got our transparency out of the gate. Good map 0. So I'm going to save this. Control S. That's going to give me an XML file, which I could then open in tiled. No. Can't open the file that it creates. I mean, it is XML. Does it want XML? Yes. Okay. Now it's got XML in the name. I could modify it. We would still need to make a new layer. That's fine. I'm just going to leave the floors only. Modify it, save it. The changes are in the XML. There's our new things. Export it, Control E to JSON. Good map 0.json. There we go. Now we're looking good. Okay. So next thing that we need to do, kind of going to be taking small steps at a time here. So I think the next thing I'm going to try to do is make a map that's just a basic room that fits the exact size of the Pygamer, and then try to render that map. And I don't know for sure if I'm going to succeed, but we will see how it goes. The other thing you can do in this, which is really nice, is this shape fill tool. I can select all of these, a bunch of them like this, and do them all at once. There we go. It's a little tough to control though, truthfully. Back to the stamper. The other thing you can do is there's like paint bucket fill. There's all kinds of interesting things in this for making it easier to draw your levels. So I'm sure I'll get better at this as I use it more. So we got an empty room. I think we should put Blinka in there, but nothing else for now. And for that, we do want to have layers. So background layer, new layer, entity layer. On the entity layer, put Blinka. Now we can save this and then export it. So save it is going to save it as XML. Export it is going to export it to our JSON file, which is the one that we'll use on CircuitPython. All right, we are looking good here. So let's go ahead and try to get this rendering in CircuitPython. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and start kind of from the ground up. Instead of, I'll probably end up at some point copying some things out of my existing tile map game applications into here. But I also want to take this opportunity to rewrite some of that stuff. So I don't want to go too heavy on the copy pasting, because there are some things that could be done better. This one I'm just going to call Pygame test 0. So this one will use my Pygame display. That way I don't have to switch back and forth to the device, but I will also go back and make sure this works on Pygamer as well. And the Pygamer, that's ultimately what we're targeting. This is nice because it allows me to do it all on the screen here without having to flip back and forth nearly as much. But eventually we are going to have to get into flipping back and forth, because we do want to run on the Pygamer. The other thing is this is going to be really small. So the size is only 160 by 128. which is going to be a very small display there, but that's fine. We could scale it if we wanted to, I guess. We could do, we could scale it. Maybe we'll do that if it's starting to look very, very, very small. For now, though, I'm going to keep it the same. So we've got this. We're ready to add stuff to our group. I'm going to go to the Learn Guide, which has the most basics of this. Multiple tile grids. This is the page we want. What is this? Whoa. I never saw this before. Dungeon tile set 2. Interesting. I've looked at this page a million times. I never caught that before. I don't know if it's new, or if I just missed it before. But yeah, this is the this is where the walls came from. So a Blinka and everything. Those are Adafruit characters, but awesome. That's where we got the walls from. Okay, so these are the concepts. We're going to use the sprite sheet that we have instead of this one. The main thing I need is this code. So we are going to start super basic, just paste what's here and then go back and fix what we need and map it to our own sprite sheet, which is called spritesheet.bmp. Blinka is still tile 0, which is based on index. So Blinka is top left, which is index 0. So we basically, in this game, it's got one tile grid which holds the character, the sprite. Blinka is who that will be in our case. And then it's got another tile grid that holds everything else. We might eventually end up with one tile grid for each layer, like how I made different layers in the map. I'm not 100% sure if that's how we will do it or not, though. But that's something to keep in mind. So I'm going to work with this castle one first, though. Height and width, we want to do 8 by 10. Well, this one's 6 by 5. Let's run it like this. Let's not change too much. Let's just run it like this and see how it works first. They scaled it. Maybe that's why. So we already have a main group, actually. We could just use the main group from the code before. We'll go ahead and leave this code here. This is pretty much the code, though. You know, eventually, this is basically hard coding stuff that will eventually we're going to read this out of the map right here and write the code that takes it from the map and does these things. Just for the sake of kind of starting at square one, though, I'm going to leave this how it is. Okay, we already did display show. We can axe that. And the last thing is we don't want to import board. We do already have display IO. We can move image load. And we already have display object. No such file or directory sprite sheet. So We don't want to look at the root. Maybe on the CircuitPython, like on the PyGamer device. Okay. So one thing is the indexes are different because my sprite sheet is different than the one used on the page, right? Like the one that this page was written for is this one here, which has got only 3 characters. In mine, I've added that second row of characters, so that threw off the indexes for all this stuff, which is why that is looking different. I do kind of like the scale, but I'm curious to see what it looks like on scale 1. We may end up going back though and actually using scale 2 or 3 for the rest of the development, because 1 I think is going to be very small. Yeah. I mean, you could make it out, but be nicer if it was bigger. So what if we do, let's check out 2. That looks pretty good. So let me go 2, and then I will we can just change the display right here also. This is one of the nice things about Pygame display. We get to declare the size of the screen, so we can always just bump it to a bigger screen. That's looking good. Okay. Yeah, I think that'll be nice for doing the development on the PC. And then we'll eventually go back and make that scale 1 on the PyGamer. So the basic concept of this is working fine. It's laying out the tiles again. You know, the particular tiles are different indexes, so we could fix that if we wanted. Floor is the place where I tend to start. That's the easiest one. Floor's index would be, I mean, it'll basically be 3 higher than whatever it was before because we added 3 things to it. So it used to be 7. Now it's going to be 10, I believe. So if we change this to 10 and there's another 10 here, we'll leave that, but we'll see if this draws most of the floors correctly. Yeah, drew all the ones in the middle there correctly. So let's go ahead and fix up the rest of these as well. It's not super important that we do this, but I think it's going to be good to have a nice clean starting state. The other thing we'll do after we get these fixed is we'll go back and make this 8 by 10 so that it fits the screen perfectly. I'm going to split that so that I can see the indexes here, so can rattle off some of these. The top left corner is going to be what? This would be index 5, so this is index 6. Which again, these are going to be just +3, I guess. So why don't we try just doing that? That might just do it for us. 12, 14. No. Oh, corners. Yes, corners are good. Yes, that worked correctly for corners. Top and bottom walls. The top walls is the one after the upper left, so that is now 7. The bottom wall is, I guess, 6 higher than that, so 13. Again, I can also just do the +3s here. So 6 to 9, 8 to 11. That should do it for us, I think. Okay, so one thing to note here, or actually 2 things, is one of them is our Blinka is not inside of the map. Right now we would think of this as the map, and you know, ordinarily the character is going to be confined to only the floor. Like the character is not typically going to be allowed to walk through the walls. So we would think that Blinka should be inside of the inner floor of this, right? Because there'd be no way for her to walk past the wall, probably. So we can change the location of Blinka just with XY coordinates, I think. right here. We could make these both smaller, and that would probably move Blinka inside. The other problem we have, though, is that Blinka is currently set by pixels and not aligned to the grid properly. So we could work around it by multiplying here. We can say like 2 times 16. We multiply by the number of pixels in our tiles. So if we wanted Blinka at the tile location 2 by 3, for instance, we could do this. And now Blinka is at coordinates 2, 3. Remember, though, this does start at 0. So 0, 0 is top left. 0, 1, 2. So we count horizontal first, and then 0, 1, 2, 3, count vertical next. So that's a nice trick to put Blinka where we want. The other thing that we can see here is that the green is not currently working for transparency, which is also a pretty quick and easy fix. So let me go ahead and do that. On the sprite tile grid, we want to do, I think we want to make a separate palette for each one. I guess it doesn't matter because the tiles don't have green in them, but maybe they could, in which case we would want a separate one, I think. So let's go sprite palette. I always try to put 2 L's in palette. Is a new display IO palette. We don't need to pass anything. We do need to know the index of green. If I go back to my tile game guide, this page right here talks about this exact issue. So it shows how to go get this loaded up in GIMP and how to find the indexes of all the colors. My recommendation is always to put the color you want to use for transparency at the beginning. So index 0. So I think probably I've done that already. We could double check though by going to colors, map, rearrange color map. Yeah, first one there is index 0 and it is green. So inside of our code, what we will do then is just say, whoops. I don't know if it matters if you do this before or after. It makes a little bit more sense to me to do it after, I think, because it doesn't get the colors populated until after this tile grid gets created. So sprite palette dot, I think is it, yeah, make transparent and index 0. Nope. We do need to pass color count. Okay, it's getting created from, it's actually getting created from image load, not getting created from tile grid, which makes sense. When you load the image, it gets the color map. So we want to just edit this one. The thing I'm trying to get away from is changing the one palette that's used for the entities and the background, although we don't have a specific reason why to avoid it, so I guess we'll just go with it. If you wanted to have like a different transparent color on the background layer versus the entity layer, you would need 2 different palettes, which would mean that you would need to image load this 2 different times. I guess that's not really a practical need, though. I don't know why you would want to do that. So I guess what we'll do is we already have our palette. We don't want to create a new one. Instead, we want to use the one we have. Palette.make doesn't know the code completion anymore. Somewhere we could put type hints on this. I don't know how. Is that... I have no idea if that's the right way to do it. No. That's alright. I won't mess with it too long. But somehow we could add type hints into the image load library, and it would make it to where PyCharm would know about this, I'm pretty sure. But it doesn't right now, and that's fine. Make transparent. We do want 0. There we go. Perfect. Got Blinka in there. It's transparent now. Yeah. I mean, I think the reason why it lost it this time, that basically it knows when you go to create a new one, like new palette, it knows from right here that it's the palette object type, and therefore when you try to use it, it knows all the things it has. This one, though, it got created from image load. I'm pretty sure, though, there should be a way inside image load, if we tell it somehow this function returns this type and the type is a display.io palette, then it would know down here how to do it. It is, you can see like how I struggled to type it in, though. You can kind of see like I'm pretty reliant on that stuff, for better or for worse. Probably for worse a little bit, but gotten to the point where I rely on that pretty heavily. This one I happen to know, and that's working though. So let's change the size now. The other thing is this doesn't take up the whole size of the display that we're doing, because it's only 6 by 5. So let's make it 8 by 10, and then we will get into actually parsing the JSON file. So here we are 10. This is in tiles, so not pixels, but tiles. We're 10 tiles wide, and we are 8 tiles tall. Return surrounded with colons. Let's give that a try. I had an S there on mine. So return surrounded with colons. The other thing is I just am saving this inside of a init, which is inside of site packages. I don't know if it needs to like refresh or anything. No. Oh yeah, no, it still doesn't have them. It has make transparent now, but that's only because I called it here. But it doesn't actually know like make opaque and the rest of them. Did I spell this right? Palette, I think so. Maybe it would need to, would it need to say Blinka display.io palette? I don't think so. Let's see if the S matters. No. Scott's. Hey Scott, how's it going? In the function def, arrow key. Oh, yes, up here. Right, arrow key. We actually have 2 types, which are both on display.io. Do we need to put display.io? No. The other thing though is I still think I might need. Does it go after the colon? Folding laundry. Looking shared bindings. It does go before the colon there. I've also seen R-type. Shared bindings has examples. Def foo parentheses. Jose's got one without the parentheses here. I think the parentheses here are needed because of the multiples. And this would be easier maybe if this only returned a single type. This is probably going to make it weird because now it thinks the bitmap is... No. The other thing though is I don't, these might not, like it might need to refresh somehow. My just going into this file and changing it might not be actually taking effect into my code completion in the other file. But this will be good. I think this has got to be, figure out the right way to tell it that it returns a tuple. Oh, we need to specify, right, because it's not, yeah, I think of it as returning two things, but it's actually not really returning two things. It's returning one tuple with two things inside of it. So we would need to tell it that it is a tuple with a bitmap and a palette inside of it. That does make sense. I'll try to figure this out. This would be nice to have, but I don't necessarily need it to go on from here. So my transparent's good. Let's change the size. We had this 8 and 10. We'll have to change these for loops, I'm guessing, too. Probably to go 1 to 5. This is X, so I think we go to 7? No, we go to 9? No, we go to 9 is the biggest one. We go to 8. I'm a guess and checker. This is not happy, I think. Display IO is not defined. So I guess the other problem is this does not currently import display IO. Doesn't it need it to? Doesn't, I guess, just because of Python typing. Take that back out for now. Uh-oh. So this is one of the fun things that gets to happen when you are making tile map games. Occasionally, you do something wrong and the screen is like this. So I think the top and bottom walls actually don't... They went pretty good. So one thing I'll need to do is this is on index 0, and it actually, this one needs to be on index 7, because that's the end. Now we have that. So the other thing is we have way too many blinkas now. I guess those, you know what those are coming from? Because the reason why those are happening is because Blinka is at index 0 and Castle, wherever Castle is. So Castle actually doesn't specify a default tile, but my guess is that the default tile is 0, probably. That seems like a sane default. We could check the tile grid docs. So one thing that's tough sometimes is getting to a good one of these from Google. Have better luck with some searches than others. We can get to here first and then search. This is actually probably the way I should do it anyway, because this will land us on the current version, whereas if we search Google, a lot of times we get an old version. This is fairly slow. I wonder maybe I can find it quicker without the search. There we go. Default tile. Doesn't say what the default is, but my guess is that's on 0, and since 0 is Blinka, we're ending up with Blinka everywhere that we did not explicitly set a different tile. Another example from bitmap. Is this the same though? Because in C code, oh I see, it's not the C code though, it's the Python stubs. None. Okay. I'll have to play with it a little bit though. I think the tuple, getting it to understand that it's a tuple and that there's both types in there is probably the key. Let me pull back the chat. Yeah, too many Blinkas on a plane. Okay, so that's why it's doing it. I think, I mean, the real solution for this would be eventually we'd want to have an extra tile probably. We'd want to have a tile that's just black. So like we'd have one that's either all green or just all actual black. That way it's like an empty one. I think for now what we'll do is let's just set the default file, the default tile to be the floor. Although the floor's not good because it makes it look like you could walk on it, which we don't necessarily want, but I think that's fine for now. Let's just set it to the floor. Eventually we'll come back and make like an empty tile, whatever the empty tile, the null tile, if you will. Index. So, well, it's the floor. It's the one I copied from here. Was it 14 maybe? No, 10. Then it will have all the tiles we don't define being floors, which is much nicer. Still messed up looking because we haven't filled in the rest of the walls yet, but better than Blinkas everywhere. Maybe, I don't know. Blinkas are actually pretty cool to have everywhere too. Let's fix left and right. So these are gonna go to 9. No, these are gonna go to 7. And this one is going to be 9. Close. Oh no, it's actually my top and bottom that are off by 1. Those need to go to 9. And then the corners need to get fixed, and then we're done. So the top left corner is good. The top right corner needs to get fixed. 9, 0. The lower left should be 0, 7. And then this should be 9, 7. There we go. Perfect. So now we have pretty much the same code here renders almost the same map as what we have here. Blinka might be in a different spot, I'm not sure. Let's line it up here. Yeah, Blinka's in a slightly different spot, but the gist of it is the exact same. We've got all the walls there. We've got a Blinka in there. It's actually probably good that Blinka's in a different slot because this way we'll know once we get it working, because Blinka will be moved. So we want to try to read all of this stuff that's happening here out of our JSON file. Right now, this is all hard-coded. It's just saying, you know, this spot, this particular one spot in the tile grid, set it to this index. This one spot, set it to this one. It's using some fancier stuff here with a for loop, but at the end of it, it is still the same exact thing. Just set this one spot to this index here. In this case, the one spot does loop, though, so it uses the values 1 to 9. And it's doing the top wall and the bottom wall at the same time there, inside one loop. And it's also doing the left wall and the right wall inside one loop down here. So we no longer need to loop and hard code any of this stuff. Instead, we want to read it out of this JSON file. So let's go ahead and read it, and we can access layers and we can access data. So let's just get that into our code, and then we'll start trying to figure out what we do with it after that. So I think we'll want to put it up above, that way it's near the top of the file. If we want to change maps, we can change it up there. Map. I always like to call my objects obj when they represent just like raw JSON data objects, so I'm going to do that. We need to import some more stuff. JSON, we need to open the file. Open good map. Whoa. Good. Of course, I clicked outside of. Good map 0 JSON. We can open that for reading. Yeah, I agree. I'm super excited to get it working with this editor. I think it's fairly standard editor that people use. I was pretty new to it, but once I found it, I've looked around and I've seen lots of folks out there using it. So I'm hoping to make it, like, this one is obviously still going to be pretty hard coded, but I'm hoping to make like tile map loader as a library or something that will be nice and reusable for folks. Without being tied to like my kind of weird engine framework thing. Map object, we want to read that from json.loads the file. We can close it. We could use context processor thing with the with keyword. I tend to do it this way. I like that I can close the file right away now that I have it loaded in memory. With the context processor, sometimes I try to do this. I think maybe with images it's more of a problem, but sometimes I try to do this, and if you close the file early, you can't access it afterwards, so I like to do it this way. That's our map object. Do we want to make another object for layers specifically? No, I think we can just access it from there. One thing we might do is make like a two-dimensional list of data. Do we want to do that? That's more like how the original one works. The original one loads the map data from the spreadsheet, like I was saying. Once it loads it from the spreadsheet, let's take a peek at this code. There's this load map function. It basically consumes the spreadsheet. You pass that spreadsheet in there. It is building it up into either two-dimensional list or maybe a dictionary of keys with tuples, XY keys with tuples. Be nicer. I mean, I could go look on the, yeah, you know what? Let me do that. I don't think it says both still listed online. Hopefully I'm back for folks now. I don't know. I didn't have to like cut the stream and come back, but I assume I probably cut out for a while there on your guys' end. I was off the internet for a few seconds, I think. I'll try to remember two things. One of them is to use Ethernet is nicer, but if I am on Wi-Fi, if I like disconnect, reconnect before I start, I think it's less of an issue. Okay, so this is the code. I had pulled that up in GitHub. That's when I first went away probably. This is code.py. We can find load map is the function inside of here that we're pretty much going to be re-implementing this function to read from the tiled JSON instead of the CSV. So I'm just going to take a peek and remember how it's working. We're looping over rows. We're looping making a dictionary which has tuple keys. So it has XY coordinates in the keys, and the in this case the value is actually the name of the tile, which we don't have the names of the tiles. We have only the indexes. That's going to be something we'll want to solve eventually, because we want to be able to attach data to those tile types, like to tell it other stuff. We don't need it for rendering, but we will need it when we go to make the rest of the game work. So the way we were setting this as floor here, some other parts of the code were reading this string, checking it against a different dictionary that had some other data about what to do with that tile type. So I think we can, do we want to do it the same where we have a dictionary of XY coordinates, or do we want to just try to read it straight out of the JSON and get it into the tile map? I almost think it's worth just trying to write the code to read it straight out of the JSON and not bother building up another dictionary, because that will save memory. I don't know if we're actually using enough memory to care about it, but I think I'm going to start that route first, is just read it right out of the JSON, no intermediary steps. So I'm going to go right from the JSON into the tile grid, without making another dictionary. Eventually we'll come back maybe and make one. So for now, I think I'll just comment this out. Do we want to keep the sprite? I think I'm going to keep the sprite for right now. We'll work on drawing the background first, and then we'll come back and figure out the sprite. So we basically want to loop over everything inside this data. So that's layers data for, these are tiles, tile indexes in JSON, no, map object, data, is that right? No, it's not. It's layers and then data. And actually it's layers and then an index and then data. So layers, we'll just hardcode 0 for now. Eventually we'll need to come back and deal with the fact that there's multiple layers. Thought I was thinking reading really hard. Oh yeah, when I got froze there. From the stubs it looks like tuples, tuple type, where types are optional. Nice. I'll try that out. I'm going to plow forward here for now. But yeah, that will be, I will give that a try. And if that works, then I'll make a PR for it, because it'll be awesome to have. I mean, I'm all for the more type hints, the better, just because I use PyCharm so much. I don't know if there's a limit to things we want to specifically not do or not, but. So layers, so we're going to loop over all of these. We need to translate from just an index that's counting up from 0 to width times height. So in this case, we have 80, right? The width and height are 8 and 10. So we're counting from 0 to 79, but we need to translate those into XY. Right now, they're just a single index. So we want to get that index, which we can do with enumerate. And I think we can use division or something, right? Print, let's just print this. Index, divided by the width, which we can access from the JSON object. So we could either, there's a top level one, height and width. There's also one in the layers. I think we'll just use the top level one for now, since they happen to be the same. But maybe if you had layers that were a different size than the full map, you would want to use the one that's inside layer. So let me also make this a formatted thing. And we only put one thing. I'm gonna have it just print one to start with. I'm sure I messed something up. Maybe not actually. I could still be off by one or something, but the y coordinate looks okay actually. Oh, well, one thing is I put y which means I thought I was printing x, but my x's are not big enough. So these are actually y's. So this should be here, and we don't know the value of x yet. That's better. Whoa, it drew something. Oh, because we put a default tile and it didn't crash. So that makes sense actually. So how do we figure out the x? The x, we would use modulus. I think if we do modulus, we can also get that, right? I'm just going to make variables for these. We'll do underscores on them just to show they're not really meant to be used outside anywhere. So x, and then I guess if we just, is it modulus width? I guess if we just do modulus here, maybe that will work. X, Y. Whoa, we don't need to debug. This probably won't break anything, but I'm not actually having breakpoints or anything. Okay. So we should go up to 9, 0, which we do, and then go back down to 0, 1, all the way up to 9, 7 is the last one. That's looking pretty good to me. So now basically we can, instead of printing these, we want to set them inside the castle. So castle XY and then we want to set it to the index we got while we were looping, which is coming out of this list. And is that it? That might be it. Not quite. Let's put the print back and also put tile index. That way it's also going to print what it thinks it's setting each tile to. We can see if it looks reasonable or not. You know what? Is a coordinate system different? So this says 0, 0. We're setting it to 7. And the first thing here does not look like the top left corner. So But 7 is the top left corner. Nice. Yeah, thank you guys for the tip there. Hugo and Hugo for the doc string, and Jose, if you add that into the I think you must be talking about the display text one probably. To add it into there. Thank you for that. 7 seems correct, but it's not visually looking like 7. Maybe it's getting reset. Is there a second thing that is setting? It's the wrong project. Is there a second thing that is setting 0, 0? There's not. But it's like it's actually getting set 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ah, we're off by 1. We're off by 1. 0 is Blinka. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the heart. 6 is the top left. Yeah. So, tiled maps that come out of the tiled editor, this one right here, these use a 1 index, a 1 based index. So we need to -1. I also spy that the black down here, when it got set to 15 or whatever that is, yeah, when it got set to 15, 15 is out of range, and it did use a black square for that, so I actually kind of want to go back and make my default tile maybe -1, and that would make it black. But at this point, we also changed the size to where it's the full size of the screen, therefore it doesn't do that. Although this says default tile is out of range. So it is out of range on the low side. Interesting. I'll just put this, I don't know, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's not mess with that yet. Did I do a -1? So I did a -1 in my print, but I did not do a -1 in my, the thing that's actually setting it into the tile grid. So we need to do both. Awesome. So now the only difference is the location of Blinka, which totally makes sense because so far I've only rendered the background layer. I only did layer 0. I haven't done layer 1. So that's actually was much easier than I was thinking. Let me catch up on the chat here. Yes, talking about display text. I'm gonna make the PR K-match. I was gonna say, yeah. Thank you, by the way, for hitting both of those. K-match. I think K-match is here somewhere. Or was, and if not, we'll catch you after the fact. But yeah, really appreciate you doing all those fixes on both. I know we got 2 of them there, so you kind of end up having to do the same thing twice. But really appreciate applying all those fixes to both of those. Python doesn't seem to like some types of hints though. Oh, so if you put the hint in, then it can start making the Python fail. I can see that. How do we want to do the entity layer? I think we could so the way that I did it in the original game is it doesn't really keep an entire layer for the character. It just keeps like there's a variable entity location or something like that, which is basically just an XY coordinate. Let's look in the movement code here. There's a player lock, which is a dictionary that has X and Y coordinate keys, has integer values, goes by 0, 0. We used I'm guessing this is probably the same as micro lab, where the U is actually meant to be the micro thing, but it's U game or micro game. This is a not library, but this is a module. This is module in the core code, and it's in this game it's just being used because it abstracts some of the buttons. The D-pad and the A and B and start and select buttons are all abstracted in here, which is really nice if you want to use it on a different device, like the Pew Pew M4 versus the PyGamer, for instance. They have different names for those button pins, and if you want your code to work with both, then you would need to include both. But if you use this UGame module, then it abstracts those away so that you can use the UGame names, and it knows which device it's on, so it matches them up to the correct pins. Player lock. Honestly, I think I'm leaning towards doing it kind of the same way. So the truth is, we would probably not have Blinka specifically in the map. Instead, we would have one of the other entities like Adabot or Ohm or whatever we want. Yeah, let me do that. I think that's going to make more sense, because Blinka is going to move around, because Blinka is the character, and I think it's worth treating the character not as a layer within the map, but instead just having like a sprite object, like the player object in Python code, and it has a location, and we move the location around. But these things are entities, and they will not necessarily move around. And therefore, I think it might make more sense if we had those embedded within the map like this. So I saved this. Let's export also to JSON. And this is here now. So what do we want to do here? We need to have the two layers each in their own tile grid. So I do think we're going to end up making a second tile grid. But to be honest with you, we need, because one tile grid is going to get layered on top of the other one, it's going to hide everything. So we need a tile that is actually fully transparent. That way, most of the tiles in the foreground tile grid will be that transparent tile index. Otherwise, it's just gonna cover up my whole background that we just got going. So why don't we work on that? I think I'm gonna have to edit this image to get there. Before I do that, though, I am gonna take just a quick break and run to the restroom and come right back. So I'll keep going for a little while longer after this, but I'll be right back. I'm gonna try to switch it over to this thing. Hopefully that will show. Okay. Did I mute? No, I didn't mute. Still good. Okay, so we need to make, like I was saying, we need to make a transparent tile. I think I'm going to put it at the end. That way none of the indexes change for the existing stuff. And we can't really just make one tile. Well, maybe we can, but I'm pretty sure we want this thing to stay square. We can't have a BMP that's got convexity or whatever. It has to be a rectangle. So we're going to end up actually adding 3 tiles to it. For now, they'll just all be transparent. And if we wanted to add more characters or something, we could do it later on. But for right now, we'll just have 3, and we'll only really need to use one of them. So to change, first thing I need to do is change the size of the canvas. Also, I'm going to get started on this. Basically, I think what I'll do is I'm going to try to get to the point where I have both of these layers rendering with these entities on top and not covering anything up, and then I'm pretty much going to call that a success for the day, and I'll probably be done after that. And if I start running into trouble and I'm not quite making it to there, then I might cut early depending on how long I go. Coming up on the 3rd hour here, but I'm ready to keep going. But I do have some other stuff that I'll be doing in the afternoon, so I think that's where I'll call it. Is if I get to the point of rendering this other layer, we'll call it good, and if I start getting too far down the rabbit hole and it's not working, then I may also cut it off as well. But that's where we're at. So that's just a heads up. Maybe another, I don't know, 20 or 30 minutes or something like that is a rough guess. But let's head back to GIMP. Let's change the size of this. We want it to be another 16 pixels taller. We don't want it to change the we do want it to change the aspect ratio. We don't want it to be any wider. So we're going to add 16 pixels to go to 96. I should not have done that. We want this to be at the top. So back to 0. We can let's fill with the foreground color, which I have already selected green, which is perfect. Resize, that didn't even matter anyway, truthfully. It's because the size of the layer. So layer, let's just go layer to image size. That will change the layer to be the size of the image. And of course it did not fill in with green, so let's do that. I think this is going to be the right. Let me just make sure it's actually 16. Yep, 16 pixels tall there. Let me catch up on the chat. Have I looked at Asprite? I have, yeah. Asprite. I have that app as well. I always forget that it's spelled differently, Asprite. I've used it a little bit. I'm not quite as comfortable in this one as I am GIMP, but I do have it, and I do think it's pretty cool. And I should use it more. So maybe one of these days I will kind of force myself into that on the stream. Because that's a good way to just take the dive in and learn stuff. So that's green. Manually bit twiddling. Yeah, GIMP is its own beast. I have gotten to the point where I'm like able to do all the things I'm able to do, and I don't know how to do them all with other ones. So it is a bit of a process, but I've got the process fairly well down. So what do I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna save one copy as the GIMP project so that we could always come back and edit this if we wanted. Then we're gonna export one, but if you remember from before, I can export it to BMP, but the file is going to be broken. The file is not going to work. So what I need to do is export it as PNG and then convert it with PIL, speaking of all the quirks of GIMP. So we want to go sprite sheet. I'm going to call it sprite sheet new. Since I added something to it, it's new. Save it as a PNG. We're going to take a copy of that now. Drop it into this folder. Move these out of the way. Go back. Can I just double click? No. Well, yes, but it doesn't run it. Python convert. So one of these days I might actually figure out what's actually specifically wrong with the BMP and then go and try to make a PR to GIMP. I don't know if they're on GitHub or whatever, but GIMP on Windows doesn't have that problem. When it exports BMPs, they work fine. But for some reason, the Linux one, when it exports it, something's wrong with it. I think something's wrong with it. Either that or something's wrong with my computer, which would be equally believable. Where is list modified? There we go. And let's tack new onto here. And let's make the default now 15. Which should be off the end, which should be the first one of those new transparent tiles that I added. 15, we're gonna make entities. Size is the same, default 15. We'll make a group for it. We could reuse the group probably. We could put this in the castle group. I don't know, for now we'll just make one, that way they're all separated. We don't want to add sprite, we want to add entities. See you, Scott. Thanks for stopping by. I wish there was Paint for Mac. Yeah, Paint would be nice. It's Windows having that built in, like it's nice to be able to just quick edit a file sometimes. Yeah, totally agreed. For touch-ups, it's much nicer than for actually making bitmaps. That's one of the things I will say, that Sprite, I'm not sure how to pronounce the name of that program, but that Sprite program is really good with like BMP graphics for making little game graphics and stuff. It is really good for that. I just am not quite used to the controls yet. So we got a group. We do want to pin the group to the one showing. So let's do that. Entity group. Yeah. So one thing is we will just need to make a new loop. Eventually I will break these out into functions, and maybe even like we'll build an object, like a map loader object or something that will return stuff to you to make it easier to reuse this code. For now though, I am going to stick to just hard coding this. So we've already looped over the things in the castle. The next thing we need to do is loop over the things in the entity layer. So layer 1 instead of layer 0. X and Y, all of this stuff is the same. We will just change this inside of entities. And the other main thing we actually need to do is make sure that entity group gets appended after castle group. Because I'm pretty sure whatever gets appended last goes on top. So we should actually probably, theoretically, we should do it in this order. Castle, then entities, then the sprite, which is the player. Feels weird that neither of these divide by height, but I guess that's right. Everything else is pretty much the same. Is that just gonna work? I guess maybe that's just gonna work. No. Value is out of bounds. Oh, I left something as -1. Oh. I see. So the thing is, we need to reload the sprite sheet. with this, and then we need to fill in the transparent sprites into this entity layer, because right now it's defaulting to 0, it's subtracting 1, and then it's getting out of bounds because of the way these are zeros. So I guess ideally it would actually probably be better if my 0 index was transparency. That way the default for empty with inside tiled would match up with my transparent tile. That's probably would be the best solution to this, but then I would have to go change all the indexes again, and I don't really feel like doing that right now. Let me see if there's a way to do layer properties, like maybe I can just select the default. No, it doesn't look like it. Select the default one on this side. It's not looking like it. So we could change all those to 15s. That's one way we could do it. We could explicitly go and put 15s inside tiled here. I don't think I want to do that either, because that would be kind of a pain to have to actually put those 15s in, and then you'd have to always wonder like which one has it and which one doesn't, because it's transparent. I think what I'll do is just work around this in code for now. The real solution, like I said though, is we want to put transparent as the 0 index. If we did that in our sprite sheet, then we wouldn't really have to mess with anything else, I don't think. Everything would just kind of work how we want. For now though, why don't we say we'll just make a special rule for 0 that says if the tile index is 0, we want to do something different. And actually what I'll do is just say not, well, we don't need to do that. We can say not equals. So if it's not 0, do this stuff. If it is 0, whoops. Tab. Else do it slightly differently, just hard code 15, which is one of our empty tiles. Not quite, but pretty close. So we got those things in the correct spots, but we also got some extra stuff going on. What is that? Is that because our sprite sheet is different sized than tiled thinks now? Because, I mean, this one doesn't have those ones at the bottom. Let's look at the printouts. So mostly 15s. Got 1, 1, and 1, 2. This is where it changes over to doing the foreground. Let me just make a little visual indicator in there. So there's no extra indexes here. This just has the indexes we need, I assume. I'm not 100% sure if 1 and 2 are correct. I assume they are. Yeah, they are. Just looking at that file there. So that's Very odd. Where are the rest of those coming from? Let me draw only one tile grid. That way we can see if that's in the background or if that's in the entities. So why don't we just not add the castle group? So that is definitely in the entities. Weird. We're setting all those things to 15. Is 15... 15 is good, right? 15 is a valid number for the first index down here. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So 15 would be bottom left. I do not know if I understand where this could be coming from. What if we print also, can you read out of this? Can. So it's drawing differently than what the tile grid is containing. Because it's saying 3, 3 is getting set to 1, which is Adabot. 4, 3, which is the next tile to the right, which visually is containing ohm. Here it's getting set to 15, and here we're proving that it is 15. But ohm is 2. Maybe the sprite sheet... No, this doesn't have a size. I was going to say maybe we need to change the size of the sprite sheet there because of the way I added a new row. Why is this? Oh. That's so weird. Does anything change if I hard code it to something other than 15? No. Does anything change if I change the default tile on the entities? to a different number. Yes, no. Maybe. It took it an extra second. That was weird. No. That was okay. Sure, this will not do anything different. Oh man, what on earth could be doing this? If we comment out the castle one, let's just verify that the castle one is not somehow also affecting the entities one. Since we're not showing the castle anymore, we can also just not fill it. Am I printing _y? Let me check. So this did still show same. I am, yeah, I'm printing it here. _y. So if I pull this, the second value here, the ones after the commas, are y. And right now they're different. This one says 15 and this one says 17 because I was just playing with hard coding different ones. Sprite.x. Are we getting that? We're not getting Blinka anymore, are we? We're not. What if we don't show Sprite? Same thing. Okay. This is definitely all zeros except for a 2 and a 3. We're subtracting 1 to get down to 1 and 2. And the if, yeah, basically we're checking for, with the if statement, we're checking for these ones to be zeros. But I mean, that's where our logic is messed up, right? Because if we put this back, without the if statement, well, we can't. Well, we can, but we'll get -1, which will then break it. Maybe we can cap it at 0, and that should make blinkas everywhere. Which it did, but it's kind of tough to tell what's going on, really. Boy, we might, we might have to give up here. So like it has a whole copy of that slice, but I do not understand how it could be getting like that. Let me try just printing it out again from entities after the fact. So like loop over all of it again. Range to 8. Range to 10. Print entities. No, these all have the right indexes. There's our 1 and 2, which are expected, and we don't have any other things other than 15s. We're not running any of this code. We are still running this, but it's not mattering because we're not currently showing the sprite group, although even when we were showing the sprite group, well, the sprite group, I guess, is a weird one. This one does actually need to be default tile 0 because that's the way that it selects Blinka as the player. That's probably why Blinka stopped showing. Yeah, Blinka shows now. I think I might run this on the PyGamer and see what happens. If we hide that, let me scale this to 3 and see if those extra things get scaled too. They do. So those things are definitely in the entity group, which the only thing in the entity group is the entities tile grid. Let me put So let me set 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. So 3, 3 is getting set to AdaBot, and 4, 3 is getting set to ohm incorrectly. So let me set 4, 3 explicitly back to something. Entities 4, 3 back to 15. Makes no difference. What about 0? So that changed it. That made it put Blinka. But this also made it do a bunch of other things. This feels like either I'm reusing a variable with the same name for something different, and that's causing it to do something that it's not expecting, or else that some, like the memory inside my tile map is tile grid is just getting wrong stuff in it from somehow. Okay, I'm gonna run this on a CircuitPython device. We're gonna see if it does the same thing there. But I think I'm probably pretty close to calling it quits for the day. I would have liked to get it, I would have liked to get it showing the 2 layers, but I'm not sure at all what could be causing this, so I don't know how long it might take me to troubleshoot it. Let's go here, CircuitPy. So code right now is my example game. Go ahead and rename that maybe. Doesn't really matter. I guess I could always copy a new copy of it, but I'm sure I already have a copy on here, truthfully, anyway. Okay, we'll copy this. I'll have to change some of it because of we're not going to be using Pygame display. Guess I don't want open, I want new, paste. We'll leave all that stuff commented out for now. So we need to copy that to the device. We need to add board. We need to change display to board dot display. We need to make, that's not right, board dot shouty display with no function. We need to make all the scales back to 1. that's it. We need to make this true. And that's it. Maybe. So this is still running the old code. Of course, I like crossed my wires there a little bit. I think. Oh no, this is just not live. There we go. Refresh that. So the error here, it says no module name Blinka display game, display Pygame, which makes sense because this is on microcontroller. We just want to undo that import. We shouldn't have that here. We didn't copy the map, so let's do that. Good map, GSON 0. Okay. It looks fine on the Pygamer. So something's weird about tile grid inside Blinka Display.io, maybe. Why don't we, maybe we can still end on a win here. Let's, because I think we're most of the way there, especially if this was working. If we go back to not doing all this stuff, commented out and removed, put back in the castle stuff, we put back in the entity, well, the castle group and the sprite group. Is that it? That might be it. Yes, perfect. So there we go. We got the entire map looking good. Our character is on there as well. Blinka is at this location. We got our entity layers is rendering. It's kind of hard. It probably is not going to focus very well just because of how small it is and the light and everything else. But you can see them on there. You can see that they're there. They're in the same positions as they were inside tiled, so that's perfect. Is that true? Yeah, they're in the same positions, so that's looking good. So this is awesome. We're pretty much there on the Pygamer, that's the platform we're going to be targeting eventually anyway. It will be good to figure out what's going on with Blinka Display.io. One thing is, I'm pretty sure that I think this prints, like these right here, this, I don't know, somewhere I changed the code inside my Blinka Display.io to print these. So Lord only knows like what state my Blinka Display.io is in. It might not be the newest one, and it might have, it in fact does have, I'm pretty sure that I just randomly changed stuff inside of it. So it's very possible I broke something inside TileGrid or inside Blinka Display.io that's causing this. It's also, you know, potentially possible there's some kind of bug there. It seems to work fine for the castle layer when it renders that. So it's not just as easy as saying like the tile grids don't work and that the indexes are broken, because the original layer in the castle is working fine. It seemed like it just became a problem once we added the second tile grid. So maybe there is some kind of issue where the second tile grid is getting confused with the sprite sheet. Total guess on my part, but it's looking awesome on the display, and that's exactly where I wanted to get to. So I think I will wrap it up here. Let me see if there's anything else I want to make sure and talk about. I don't think so. This got us most of the way there. So yeah, I'll probably work on this some this week. But I figured this would be a good sort of maybe longer term project. Like obviously I've gotten only the very most basics down here, which is a good step. I've got it to where we can save it out of tiled. We can import it into CircuitPython. We can even have different layers and stuff. So part of that is going, but obviously we're just in the very early stages. We've only rendered the map. We haven't hardly made any more of a game. So I think what I'll do is I may work on this some off stream, especially I'd like to dig on that Blinka Display.io issue, try to figure out what's going on there, and see if I can't resolve that, or at least make a more smaller reproducer, and then we can make an issue for it if we're able to get a smaller reproducer. I might dig on that some, but I'll try to not go very far on the rest of the game, and I'll try to keep this game as like a stream project. So I don't know for sure if I'll pick it up next week. It just kind of depends. I don't really plan these things out a full week in advance. Even like last night, if you were in the Discord and you caught Jose, I think it was Jose or somebody had asked me what I was going to do today, and I wasn't sure. I was thinking about this tile map stuff in the back of my head, but I still wasn't sure. So I don't know for sure if I'll continue with it next week. But eventually we will pick this back up, and I'll pick up more or less right where I'm at here, maybe with the Blinka display thing fixed, hopefully, fingers crossed. But I'll pick it up here, and that way, like, you know, over time you'll be able to look back on these videos and kind of see the game evolve. One thing I want to start doing is making timestamps in the description. I haven't been good about doing that yet. I'm going to try to do that for this video, and I'm going to try to do it for all the videos moving forwards. That way they're, especially because we're getting long, like, you know, right now we're at like 3.5 hours. So it's a very long video for people watching it after the fact. If they don't want to watch the whole thing, it would be really good to have those timestamps in. And especially if I have a longer term project like this, those timestamps would help you find all those different videos, if that's what you wanted to look was kind of like beginning to end through the game. Anyway, I'm rambling a little bit now, so I apologize. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you to Scott. I think he's gone already, but thank you to Scott for stopping by. That was really cool to see. Thank you, Hugo, Jose, Jay for seeing, K-Match, anybody else who hung out with me. I appreciate all of you guys, all you folks. Was fun as always, and I will see you again next Saturday morning for sure. So yeah, until then, thanks for watching.